My name is Mariah, and I'm going to be talking about Down syndrome, what it is, and what accommodations you can make in the classroom to help them succeed. So here we just have the index. We're going to talk about what is Down syndrome, the characteristics of Down syndrome, the idea, categorization, evidence-based best practices, and then two examples of the best practices, and then of course the reference page. So what is Down syndrome? Down syndrome. Down syndrome is a condition in which a person has an extra chromosome. It is categorized as an intellectual disability under IDEA. Babies are typically born with 46 chromosomes. However, babies with Down syndrome have an extra copy of chromosome called chromosome 21. As you can see here, there's 46 here of a person without Down syndrome, and then the person with Down syndrome has 47 chromosomes. Chromosomes are genes in our bodies that determine how a baby's body forms and grows during pregnancy and birth. And since babies with Down syndrome have an extra copy of chromosome 21, it changes the way that their bodies and brains develop, which can lead to both physical and mental challenges for the baby. And then here we just have some common physical characteristics of children with Down syndrome. They have flattened profiles, a nose, poor muscle tone, small head, ears, and mouth, upward slanting eyes, and then wide, short hands, as you can see in these pictures. They also are known to have like protruding tongues when they're babies, which just means that they like stick their tongue out. They are typically shorter in height, even when they're adults. They have skin folds that comes out from the upper eyelid and covers the inner corner of their eye. Children with Down syndrome typically have like delays in motor skills and speech. Like, for example, a typically developing child usually begins to crawl around 8.5 months, whereas a child with Down syndrome might not start until around 18 months. And they also may be slower in like learning how to turn over, sit, and stand due to their poor muscle tone. Common intellectual characteristics in people with Down syndrome include short attention span, poor judgment, poor short-term memory, impulsive behavior, slow learning, slow verbal learning, and poor expressive communication. Other common health characteristics include vision loss, hearing loss, thyroid problems, and sleep apnea. People with Down syndrome are more likely to develop sleep apnea due to their low muscle tone and the fact that their upper airways are usually smaller. They are also more susceptible to hearing loss due to the fact that they have narrow ear canals and abnormalities in their cochlea. Though children with Down syndrome may have delays in their development, they are still capable of reaching those important milestones. Many students with intellectual disabilities are able to read and write up to or even beyond the sixth grade. And by incorporating these evidence-based practices that I'm about to talk about into like their education, it will allow the students to better thrive in their academic career. So first up, we have incorporating visual support such as models, schedules, timers, and pictures and drawings into your lessons. Having visual supports positioned in the classroom in a meaningful way will allow the student to be able to see exactly like when an activity is going to start and when it's going to end, what the activity is going to be, and just gives them a better sense of like what's going on around them. Also, as noted previously, students with Down syndrome tend to have a short attention span and may have hearing loss. So providing visual support such as timers and class schedules allows the student to know what they're going to expect in their daily routine and how long they're expected to do that task for. And then next we have assistive technology, which is basically any device that helps people with disabilities work around their challenges. So one example of assistive technology is a software that reads text aloud to children, because as we know, students with Down syndrome tend to struggle with reading and comprehension. Assistive technology also does not have to be expensive or fancy. It can be like something as small as adding adaptive tools such as pencil grippers if the student is struggling with writing because of their low muscle tone and short limbs. Also, another big one is incorporating hands-on activities. Again, this is like one of those things where it's beneficial for like the whole class, but especially for students with Down syndrome. Because they typically have hearing and visual impairments, then it's like best to appeal to other senses such as touch and even taste. So like having activities where the student is able to feel and move around allows them to work on their gross and fine motor skills and possibly communication skills when it's done in like group activities. They also become like more involved with their learning. For example, like you can use manipulatives such as math during math lessons, such as like counting blocks and dice. So just so they have like something in their hand and like they're able to see exactly like what they're doing throughout the lesson. We can also use task analysis, which is basically just breaking down complex activities into a series of small steps so that the student is able to see and mimic those steps easily. I feel like this accommodation is great for students with Down syndrome because, as I mentioned, they have a short attention span and short memories. So breaking the activity into chunks will reduce frustration when they're trying to complete an activity. And as you can see here, I have an example of task analysis, which is washing their hands. It shows you step by step how to do it, breaking it down into a detailed series of steps. Another thing that you can do is to shorten your instructions. Along the same line, you can also modify the lesson so that you are only introducing a few ideas at a time, so that the student is like really able to digest the information you're giving them before moving on to something new. And then you can also include. Oh, wait a second. You can also include functional skills because that'll help them get used to like what's going on in the real world. And there are plenty of ways to incorporate functional skills into your lesson. Like, for instance, in math, you can use real coins when talking about counting money. This way, you're using your hands in the activities while still helping them understand the look and value of real money. You can also include many lessons of self care, time management, even basic household tasks. And these don't have to be like long or time consuming, but having these discussions help with their life skills and independence. Using flashcards is another big one. Again, students with Down syndrome have poor short term memory. So they benefit from using repetition, which, flashcards, you're constantly using them and they get to see them over and over again, helps them retain the information. It helps to know like what key skills that you want to like present on the flashcard to the student, how you want to present it on them. And then you can also decide like what phrases and icons and words that you want on the flashcard. So it's like you're able to tailor it directly for the student. You also can decide like how often you want them to view it. And then another fun thing that you can do is incorporating music and singing because music and singing has repetition rhyming in it and it can be used as a language model for students with Down syndrome. It can also increase like phonological awareness as well because you are singing like every syllable with the musical notes. And then using lessons is also a great way to introduce vocabulary words. And then I feel like another like subtle accommodation you can make is like adjusting like the desk and foot support so that their child is like more comfortable in the workspace because their low muscle tone causes them to need like the proper support. And also checking to ensure that their feet aren't dangling from the chair, but like are instead they're like resting flat on the ground, which will lessen fatigue. And also discourage that the child with Down syndrome sits crisscross applesauce because it adds stress to their joints and their hands and their knees. And you can also allow more time for the student to process the material and learn the material. And also encourage peer interactions, just making sure that you're promoting inclusivity and peer interactions that will support the social development of the students. And you can do this by like assigning a buddy to the student or like including them in group assignments and talking to the class about what a disability is and the importance of being kind to each other. So just, creating a kind and caring classroom community. And here are the links to my examples of the evidence-based practices, and you can watch them. And yeah. That's all. Thank you for listening.